Welcome back to Vlogmas Day 8. Today we're going to re-review a record player that is one of my favorites. It's also one of the lowest quality record players that I have. And in spite of that, I love it and I use it frequently, and I have no plans on getting rid of it anytime soon. It's a lot of fun because it's a Christmas record player. It's discontinued now, unfortunately, but there were 2 or 3 variants they made. It's been a few years now since I first reviewed this, so I wanted to share with you my thoughts on how it performs to this day, what I think of it, if I would recommend something similar, and also we're going to play some records. This is really a great excuse to play some kids and Christmas records right in the middle of the Christmas season. Okay, this is the LP and #1 brand Christmas record player from, very specifically, September of 2019. I happened to see the sticker on the back that has a manufacturing date. So yeah, I probably first reviewed it the Christmas of 2019. So it's been a few years. This thing is just so charming. It's just so cool. It looks like it's, wrapped in Christmas wrapping paper. It's got the little white speaker grills, the white handle, and it's a suitcase player. I understand it. I'm not trying to sell you a record player. I am not trying to, talk you out of your Technics SL1200s. I am merely showing you another record player. Anyway, this is cool. Vinyl wrapped. It's the same deal, essentially, as any other suitcase player, but they're not identical. I always love pointing this out. People think they all come out of the same factory, which is run by Crosley, as a big, underhanded, attempt to take over the world and ruin everybody's records. In reality, they're made by a number of different companies. There are different models that have different capabilities, and they're not all the same thing. They have varying levels of quality. In fact, the newest Crosley Cruisers are quite good. They've built in a new sound box that really helps with the bass, and they're properly impedance matched, etc. This red one is kind of festive too this time of year, but yeah, it is different. I wanted to show this because, right off the bat, you can see a couple of differences. Not only in like the grills that are spec'd out or the handles, superficial stuff, but also if I put these side by side, you will see that the dimensions are in fact different. Like this one is a bigger unit than this one, the lid specifically. But, we've done shows doing that before, but I thought it would be a good time to bring it out. So the one thing that drives me nuts about all suitcase players is the fact that they put the rubber or whatever feet on this bottom, not on this bottom. And back here we've got, hinges. So when you set it down like a suitcase, it teeters on that hinge, and that drives me insane. I may have seen one over the years that actually had feet back here as well, but usually it's just these right here because they know you're going to be laying it down like that, and that's fine and good. But I think that they should also have something back there. Let's start on the back here. You will notice the label here and the hinges, and that's about it. And you may be saying to yourself, good grief, does this one not even have any jacks or controls? It does. They're just located over here on the side, which is totally different than the other one, which has all of its jacks on the back on this little panel right here. RCA outputs, auxiliary input on this one, and the common 5-volt power supply. Also, this one has a lot more basic hinge than the one that we have before us right here. But yeah, here are the controls here. This one has some interesting features. So we have a line in, an aux output, 5-volt power supply. This one has a headphone jack, and then the on and off switch, volume control, as well as a Bluetooth/phono mode switch. A lot of suitcase players, not all of them now, the new Crosley Cruisers, among others, will stream Bluetooth out. But most of the Bluetooth-enabled early suitcases were Bluetooth speakers only, meaning that it could only receive Bluetooth from your phone. Here's a little bit of unfortunate fit and finish right here with the wrap coming over to the side. It's obviously best when those seams are made in the back, but back here it's actually seamless. Same thing with the bottom. It unfortunately is wrapped right there on the front corner, and you can see its threads are starting to come out and whatnot. So it's an very, very entry-level record player. And I say record player, not turntable, quite intentionally, because it has built-in speakers. It's an all-in-one solution. Look at this stain I have back here. What on earth? How did I do that? Do you see that? It's like, it's almost like a, I don't even know what that is. But you know what? I will say this. I stack these things in storage, so it's quite possible that, something else caused that. Let's go ahead and open it up, and you will see the LP and number one branding back there. I think that's cool. We've got the reindeer, Christmas tree, snowflakes, all the decoration. LP and number one is a pretty prominent entry-level brand. Unfortunately, they stopped selling this particular make and model, but it is really, really cool. So yeah, it's your typical Skywin all-in-one mechanism. I want to point out again that there are multiple versions of this mechanism, and it does make a difference. Like, they're not all the same quality. Some are better than others. Some have slip mats with no rubber nubs. Some have no slip mats with rubber nubs, like this one. But they're usually shock mounted. Sometimes they're rigid to the plinth. They've got a little 45 adapter back here, by the way. Don't forget to pick up your exclusive color Record-ology 45 adapters. Metal tone arm, usually a spring counterbalance back there, and this ceramic cartridge up front. These ceramic cartridges, by design, sound a bit harsher, maybe a little colder than a higher end moving magnetic. However, for the beginner, for a lot of people, they're just fine. This is a higher end version of this very entry level cartridge, in that it has a metal cantilever, as you can see there. Probably still has a sapphire stylus, so you can upgrade the red housing piece, which contains the stylus and cantilever, to a diamond one, which will make it last longer. It won't really impact the sound quality, but it will make it last longer than the built-in sapphire one that comes with it, to the tune of about 1,000 plays versus 100 plays. But you can't really upgrade the cartridge. If you were to change it out, you can change them out. I've done videos on how to change them out, but it's a like-for-like replacement. You can't just slap a moving magnet cartridge in here. And I asked the question at CES a few years ago to a manufacturer. I'm like, why don't you guys make a suitcase player with a magnetic cartridge? And they do. There are many suitcases with moving magnet cartridges now. But my question was specifically the very entry-level ones, the ones that you stumble upon at Kohl's and Target, Walmart, stuff like that. The cruiser style. Why don't you put a moving magnet cartridge in there? And the answer was that it has no intrinsic value to the complete novice. When they walk up and they see a suitcase player, they see record player. They're not looking at the cartridge unless they're an expert or they're somebody with experience. In that case, they're going to go look for something else anyway. Pop the top on this one. It's a Crosley Cruiser. And I think this is one of the upgraded models, and very similar, but again, I want to point out that they are not identical. You can see no knobs here, and this one has things like a pitch control, the volume knob, Bluetooth in and out, and that's all right there. But this one has nothing on this side, whereas this one had all the controls over on this side. So enough of that. They're different. They're not all the same. I'll be using the built-in speakers and ambiently recording it. We did yesterday our top 10 Christmas movies, and this came up, The Muppets Christmas, and in fact, both famous Muppet Christmas movies. But I got to thinking about this album. This thing is a classic. If you love the Muppets or just Christmas in general, you'll probably love this. So it's a gatefold record. Look at the artwork. Just so much to look at. This is back to being, the epitome of physical media, the benefit of physical media over streaming, because you can sit there on the couch by the candlelight, by the Christmas tree, and hold this in your hands while this record plays. This is super, super fun. 1979 RCA Victor release on a standard issue RCA Victor label. No, it doesn't sound the best, but it's listenable. It's fun. This is a super cool record. Check this out. This is a dealer record. This is like a thank you from your RCA Victor dealer of some Christmas music. It's got 4 songs, so it's an EP, and it's a 7-inch, 45 RPM Victor release. We'll go ahead and take a look at the label. I think that's really cool. Love the red and green. Really neat. A gift from your RCA Victor record dealer. I mean, you can definitely have fun with this. I would think that anybody would realize that, but you'd be surprised. Some people just will not allow themselves. So another record I really am excited to have an excuse to show off is this. I never had this as a kid, but I had the golden book that this is based on. What's cool about this is it's the book and the record. So I've got all the pages in a little bit different form factor. That book was a little bit more rectangular. You can see this like void white space on the sides. I think that's because they sort of shrunk it to fit these square pages. But yeah, this is super neat. Great memories. I remember having this, flipping through the pages and listening to the music. So
dashing through the snow in a 1-horse open sleigh.
Love the chime to turn the pages.
O'er the fields we go, shouted Papa Bear as the sleigh glided over the snowy ground. The baby bears sang Christmas.
Here's a little bit of a hack for you. If you're looking for an affordable way to play 78s, people will agree, people that know 78s, that these are actually really good. The higher tracking force of around 5 to 6 grams is actually ideally suited for a shellac record. The trick is it comes with a micro groove thinner stylus for contemporary records, but to play a 78 you need that wide groove. The good news is you can replace the stylus. I, of course, don't have one. I say of course because it's ironic. I should have one. There's a Bampa flip cartridge that I do have, but they started shipping that with both sides being a micro groove, which is kind of silly. But no, you can order a replacement stylus. You can still play 78s. This is a 3-speed. Most of these suitcase players are. No problem. It's just that the thinner needle and the wider groove is going to sound a little more thin. It will sound noticeably better if you use the wide groove stylus replacement. Now these Kids 78s were made by Synthetics Plastic Corp. It's a little bit different than straight up vinyl. It's like a vinyl light type of material. I think it's a bit more brittle. But yeah, let's give this a little bit of a listen. It's going to be noisy, but it should be listenable. Kids today probably wouldn't be clamoring for something that sounds like this. This is like a 10-inch record, by the way. Now, I would be listening to this because I love Christmas carols. I think this is a lot of fun. But yeah, you can pick these larger kids records up at antique malls. There'll be a lot of them there, I've noticed, for not that much money. The trick is, can you find one that's playable? This one's in pretty decent condition, but a lot of these were played on like tin phonographs, child's phonographs, and were just beat to heck and played and played and played. This is good. They were loved. They were used. They weren't designed to be, collector's items, 70, 80 years later. But finding one that's not worn out is tricky. The way you can tell on these red kids discs if they're any good still is if the playing surface looks as red as possible. The more worn ones will look whiter. They will get kind of a white hue as those grooves are just carved and carved and carved. You can see some streaks of white on this one, but it's overall in pretty good condition. Same thing with the yellow kids discs. You'll be able to tell by looking at the playing surface. If it's all washed out, you can really tell that it's worn. Sometimes they get so bad that they're almost inaudible, but still collectible. Here's a little 5-inch kids record. This one's a bit more beat up, still 78 RPM. This is a pretty thin record. The label's missing from that side. But yeah, this is fun stuff.
He knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. Oh, you better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming.
Now check this out. Look how different the color of this one is. It's more of a brownish red in contrast. And the label, I don't know if you can see this texture. It's kind of rippled a little bit there. That's indicative of water damage, which doesn't impact the disc, but the labels, they kind of shrink like that. That's likely water damage. Or if these are glued on labels, sometimes if glue deteriorates over time, it can do that. Very similar to what happens with 8-track cartridges. But in my opinion, the best thing to do with one of these suitcase players is to play a Micro Groove 45. 7-inch records are great. You can put the picture cover in there if you have one. Okay, final thoughts on the LP and #1 Merry Christmas record player. Like I said, I'm going to keep it. I just love this thing. I think it's really cool. The unit itself is not the highest performer that I have. It sounds a bit thinner than others. Certainly the upgraded Crosley to the right. However, the decoration and sort of the festive design wins it over for me. And I do think that styling and the aesthetic of a piece plays into the overall hobby. A lot of people like to ignore that and pretend it's only about the sound. And maybe to some people, that's all they care about. But for me, part of the tactile interaction of all of this is the experience, which is, holding the liner notes, looking for a record, playing it on a record player that suits your needs, something that's interesting and fun. Having a couple different types of record players, if you can do it, is a lot of fun as well. So by no means should this be the best record player you ever have, and you should stop looking after you obtain one of these. But maybe it's a great secondary unit, maybe it's a great starter unit, or maybe it's just a really fun record player to use to play some Christmas records at this time of year. And that's going to wrap up Vlogmas for today. We'll be back with more content tomorrow. Can't wait to see you there.